Well, g'day Australia and welcome to the great electorate of Buderim. I'm here with Senator Hanson and also Stephen Ford, the candidate for Nicklin. This is a really exciting time in history, particularly here on the Sunshine Coast, because there's so much happening and there's so much to do. But then we've got the greater Queensland and the greater Australia, where Senator Hanson will talk about some issues very shortly. But a couple of things I'd like to touch on. I'd like you to look on my Facebook regularly, because we're going to continue unashamedly to be dropping policies and putting messages out there that Queenslanders need to know about. We're going straight through the media. We're delivering directly to you because we want you to be aware of what's going on in this great state, this great country, and the great electorate of Buderim as well. But first thing I'd like to touch on is a delivery and something that we've already promised as far as Queensland One Nation is concerned here on the Sunshine Coast. We've committed to delivering a $440 million road network that will link up the brand new hospital that's going to be open in just 2 months' time. They haven't even built the road networks to get to this brand new hospital that will get there for people so they can get there adequately and get there on time. I mean, we all know if you're having a heart attack, minutes and seconds can be absolutely crucial. So One Nation is ahead of the game immediately delivering that road network, but also this will link up Brisbane Road down at Mooloolaba. Tourists are going to be able to get there a whole lot easier. That's just one project, but a great one that we announced a couple of weeks ago, if you haven't heard about it, is a hybrid water scheme of the Bradfield project, which will take water to Western Queensland and create economic prosperity for many, many decades to come. One Nation is not planning from election to election. We're planning from decade to decade. We want to make sure that Australians have got fresh food and vegetables here for not just the next 20 years, 50 years and 100 years, but way into the future, because with water, you can do anything. And I align this with the Hoover Dam that was built in the United States. Without the Hoover Dam in the United States, you wouldn't have Las Vegas. You wouldn't have all that agricultural belt over there and all those areas that grow fantastic food that feed America. That's what we want to do here in Australia. The world population is going through the roof. They're going to be very hungry for many years to come. And this is about an opportunity to feed the people of the world and deliver great outcomes, but most of all, jobs for apprentices, jobs for people who want to go and live in these areas. This is what One Nation is about, creating prosperity, delivering on the dreams, ambition and goals of so many Queenslanders. That's what we're looking to do, and there's many things we can talk about, but I'm probably talking too much from Buderim. Senator Hanson, have a crack.
Because you are so excited, and I don't blame you. We are excited about today, the polls. They've done a poll in Queensland, and apparently One Nation has gone from 16% up to 23% in the last 3 months. So to those people out there who answered the poll, thank you for your support. It's great. Look, we are excited about it, and I think people are looking for someone else to vote for other than the major political parties, because they haven't delivered. That's what it's all about. Steve, look, there's been a bit of controversy about you coming across the One Nation, that you were with the LNP for 10 years. I think this is your opportunity to be open, with the people and tell them why you did come across to One Nation. I think people need to know this. I understand that you join a party and people say, well, we voted for you and you should be, with the party till the next election. And I understand that. I get that, because I had the same issue with Rod Cullerton, that he actually wanted to walk away, but then he wanted to stay as an independent with One Nation. But Rod was basically, going his own way. I think that what people need to know, why have you chosen to join me? And I think it's very important. People have to know that, why they should vote for you.
I'm very, very happy to talk about that very, very clearly. There's many things that happen in your career that you bite your tongue and you think to yourself, geez, I just don't like that, but you put up with it. And it went on and on, and I'll give you a couple of examples. We're in Parliament leading into the middle of last year, and I don't even like saying this publicly, but the world needs to know about it. The Labor Party and the LNP came together and they decided they wanted to put a bill through Parliament that they would support each other, dropping the age of anal sex from 18 to 16 for little girls and boys. I mean, seriously? That was the first time that I've never voted in Parliament, but one thing I can say, there was 13 other members of Parliament who also abstained from voting in that particular process. That disgusted me, and it really upsets me to think this is what the politicians are doing. We're talking about dropping the age of anal sex from 18 to 16 years of age for little boys and little girls. I remember what my kids were like at 16, and if you've got a 16-year-old daughter or a 16-year-old son, think about how you would feel coming home after a work in the office that day and saying to your wife, guess what I did in the office today in Parliament? I voted to drop the age of anal sex from 18 to 16. You know, it disgusts me. I don't know what you think about it, but I'd love to see what you're thinking on Facebook. Send a message back. Would you have liked to have been part of a party who agreed to do that? Well, I didn't. That's one of the straws that helped break my back. And then we got to the point where medical cannabis was in a very similar situation, where young people and elderly, many people across this country are suffering and they're dying from not being able to get this life-saving medicine. And this is something that's assisting them. We've passed legislation to say it's going to be approved, but the problem is people can't get this product right now. And that's what's very, very important to me. Today, Senator Hanson has called on the Premier of Queensland to make sure an amnesty is put in place for these people who need this life-saving medicine. You know, this is very, very important to people. It is real, and it's about real people's lives. And we just have to make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, think about bureaucracy. You know, over the last 25 years, we've had Labor in government, we've had the LNP in government. I mean, are you happy with your life? Are you happy with the way politics are going? Can you honestly look yourself in the mirror and go, these people have done a great job?
But Steve, it's not only that. What I'm finding with people, I hear it all the time, is the governments deliver policies and legislation. And what I've found in Queensland since I grew up in this state is our standard of living is dropping. Our escalating costs are rising constantly. We have more regulations. We've become more of a nanny state. We have bureaucrats. I sometimes wonder, who is actually running this country? Is it the politicians or is it bureaucrats? And that's why I'm fed up with it. That's why I never gave up to get back into this. This is why I liked you from the first moment that I ever met you, is that, you know, I think that we think so much alike. That's why you had so much respect for me and what I'm trying to do. And you've said that, you know, to me, and that's why I'm saying it now. But the whole fact is, I see you as a person like I am. You're not happy with the status quo. You're sick of the politicians. They don't seem to be listening to the people. This is why I became a politician myself. And I said to people, you can go and protest and you can talk around your barbies all that you want to. Things will not change in this country till we change the legislation on the floor of Parliament. You have to be on the floor of Parliament. That's where it's going to change. So unless you, the people out there who are voting this election, say, okay, I'm going to vote differently this time because the others are not representing me. So then when you go to vote at the ballot box, give it serious consideration because, as I said, if you're not happy, say your kids, do you think your kids have a future? Do you really believe that they're going to have, you know, be able to get that job out there, or that you're not going to be thrown on the scrap heap from about 45, 50 years of age? What about the pensioners? Are they really looked after, or are they struggling to actually pay the bills? Hot day, we're in the 30s, hitting 40s in some areas. Can you afford to put on the air conditioner? Can you afford to put on the fan? That's another thing. That's what's happening in our country. But anyway, this is where we're headed. Now, we've actually asked for questions to come through, and people are starting to send through their questions. If you have any questions, you know, put the feed onto Steve's page, and it's Steve Dickson MP, Facebook. Send through your questions, let us know. We're having this communication with you. We want to know what you think. Ask the questions, you've got the opportunity
Listen,
now.
we've got one come through right now. It's from Jonathan Parks. Do you support the sell-off of assets here in Queensland? I know what the answer is. What do you think it is?
No.
No, that's exactly right. So you got two no's straight up.
No from me as well.
That's three
Sorry.
no's.
Oh, look, we've got to introduce... sorry, Steve.
Okay, here we got another one here
Look,
from...
Hold on.
Okay. Sorry about that. Forgive me, Steve.
Steve Ford is our candidate for Nicklin. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks very much,
And Steve's just
Pauline.
north of the Sunshine Coast.
Thank you.
Welcome on board, and thanks for being a candidate.
Well, it's an absolute privilege for me, and I'm proud to be hopefully representing the people of Nicklin.
Good. It's going to be an experience.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
So what's happening in Nicklin? What's going on in the seat of Nicklin? You've been out there knocking on doors and talking to people at markets, and I know you're getting your face out there because they're telling me you are.
Yeah, I have, and you know, people are telling me about the issues that they've got in the electorate, and one of the big issues that they have is that Nicklin is, and as well Glasshouse, the hinterland electorates of the Sunshine Coast, and I'm hearing that they're being treated like a poor cousin to the beach. You know, that things that are happening down here in Maroochydore, for instance, and the new CBD and so on, they're being ignored. Similar projects that should be done in Nicklin and Glasshouse. So, you know,
I'll tell you what, you've touched on something really important. I think this needs to be said to the people of Queensland and Australia too. The Sunshine Coast holistically is seen as an LNP safe seat area. Seriously, that's what it's seen as. And you know what we get here on the Sunshine Coast because it's a safe LNP seat area? We get nothing. We got the hospital because we all went in and we fought for it for a very, very, very long time. But we need roads. We need the stuff Steve's just spoken about. I mean, this is seen as a safe area. We're not going to get anything. So I'd love to hear what you've got to say about that, particularly if you live in Buderim or here on the Sunshine Coast.
Just, I'm interested in you, Steve, your background. What's your background? What did you do?
I came from Miles originally and grew up on a cattle property there. And after I went to university, I had an opportunity to go overseas working in the oil and gas industry, and so I did that in New Guinea and then in the Middle East and North Africa and West Africa. And then I came back to Australia, and by that time I was running companies, and I came back to Australia and headed up one of the biggest drilling contract companies in Australia. And then I was asked by Shell to start a new joint venture between Shell and another company, and so I did that and started that up, and then I did some consulting back in Saudi Arabia, and then I came back here, and by now I was ready to do something else, and I've always been interested in politics, so I looked at the opportunities, and fortunately I met you. So
Yeah, well, you've got a wide range of knowledge and experience in this area, and I think it's very important. It's going to be very important on the floor of Parliament. Now, we go back to question, Steve.
We've got one here from Michael McDonald. Where do you stand on Adani? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm all for it.
I'm all for it too.
Yeah, we need jobs.
Well,
they'll create about 10,500 jobs and inject so much money into the economy. Central Queensland's dying. You've got areas such as Rockhampton, Upper Townsville, absolutely no jobs that's happening. Coal is not a disaster. Coal is, we need coal, and we need it for our coal-fired power stations. The whole thing is the renewables, and this has been the case. We've seen it happen in South Australia now. Power blackouts, because wind power and solar don't produce the base load that we need as a nation. That's it. They cannot do anything about that. So we do need coal. And
here in Queensland, we happen to have the best black anthracite coal that you can get.
Yep.
Clean burning and efficient coal. So this is ideal for Queensland.
And actually,
we must support it.
Well, that's 3 out of 3 again. I support it too, and I think we've got to
Yep.
move forward, create jobs, and Adani is going to export a whole lot of coal out of Australia, and those income dollars are going to stay here. That's what's important
And
to
I want to see
Queensland.
that new coal-fired power station put up in North Queensland. They have no competition of costs up there. They're struggling up there, so I think we need to go with
Well,
that.
there's a tie into that too, because many Queenslanders won't know this, but we pay roughly $600 million a year in a subsidy to keep the price of power at the same cost it is down here in southeast Queensland, so it can be cheaper up in North Queensland. So actually, that's a really good idea. And I mean, if you're digging the coal out of the ground and you can put a coal-fired power station in up there, and there's some great technology in that area now, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, renewables have got their place, but so has baseload energy. You need baseload energy, and I just read today that without Queensland's baseload energy, New South Wales will be living in the dark.
Yep.
But too, Steve, with the Bradfield scheme, we're going to be looking at putting dams across Queensland. And if we can put coal-fired power stations near dams, we've got power and water, and we're going to attract people.
Or in the
we're going to
Bradfield
attract
scheme.
jobs, decentralised communities.
Look, I'd like to eventually, we can go for more solar energy, no problem with it. We can actually go for hydro power. I'm all for that as well.
Absolutely.
You know, but at the moment, it's got to be the coal, and we've got to stick with that until we come up with better ways. There's another question here. Do you want?
Leanne Leeton, we've got, I'm horrified at the pornography she was exposed to at the age of 13 when she was at school on their phones. I mean, this is a real issue. It's a technology problem. I'm actually on the Education Committee within the Queensland Government, and we're dealing with this on that particular committee at the moment. And I made up a suggestion. You know, when kids go to school, why is it that they actually need to take their mobile phones into the classroom? They could have a little box as you walk in the door, leave them there. You don't need your mobile phone in the classroom. You know, we live without it, and, you know, all of us are reasonably intelligent people right across Australia, so sometimes you've just got to leave the mobile phone behind, but it's up to mum and dad how they look after their kids at home, and I think the responsibility for many children needs to come back home as well. We as parents need to bring our children up in the way that we believe is the appropriate way that children should react in this world.
Do you know something, Steve? You could end up as Premier of the state after the next election. You aware of that?
Well, I've never. I've never aspired to be the leader of anything, but if that happens, I'll do it.
So the whole fact is, you're going to have to make these tough decisions because people want it. They want someone to make the tough decisions and not just out there looking after the minorities. We've got to start looking after the majority. And I tell you what, if you're not tough and you don't do the job that I expect you to do, I'm going to be up you like a rat up a drain. And I'll be honest with you, because it's really, you know, this is what the people want. This is why they're getting behind supporting One Nation, because they see me as a person who's out there, to, you know, and I won't back away from an issue. And I think you've got it. I really hope you get behind this man, because I think he's fantastic.
Making a difference.
Pauline, I think you've nailed it in one, and this is something I learned when I was a minister in a previous government. When you're in charge of any department, or if I was lucky enough to be the Premier of Queensland, it's about telling the bureaucrats what to do and not having them tell you what to do. I mean, they are employees of the Queensland Government who have to implement policy. And this is what I've found since I've spent the last 10 years in government. The politicians get run around by the bureaucrats quite a bit. We need to direct them what to do. We need to be serious about that. And this is just like being in any private enterprise. If you fail in private enterprise, it's because you've not given good direction. If in government you fail, just move on to the next 3 years, get re-elected again and do it all again. I mean, that's a pretty poor outcome. We won't allow that to happen. And I'm my own worst critic, and I've got Senator Hanson that's going to come and give me a touch-up if I don't get it right. So I'm going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen as a team.
So you've got to go to Steve's page, and you've got to like Steve's page. We've got, so if you want to do that, go to Steve's page, Steve Dickson MP Facebook page, and like his page. What are you going to say?
The politicians have to remember too that they work for the people of the electorates. You know, they work for the people of Queensland, not the other way around. You know, so yes, they have to tell the bureaucrats what to do, but they have to remember who they're working for as well, and not just go in 3-year increments.
Steve, I think you've nailed the trick. It's about having big ears and listening to what people have got to say and then acting upon those concerns. But we have another question.
Matty Ford, what do you say? What about the Vlad laws? I get asked that all the time.
Well,
the Vlad laws. So you've been in the Parliament?
I met with the president of the Bikers Union actually last week. He came to my office, and he was with, I think they're called the Rockers 59ers, if I recall. And he said to me, we're just a bunch of blokes who like listening to music, getting on our bikes and riding around together. But he said there are some people who do the wrong thing. And what I said to him very clearly was, you need to go away, come back to us with a policy that can allow normal people, which are 95% of people who ride motorbikes, they can do what they like. We don't care. But if you want to sell ice to our kids, we're going to jail you. And we're going to be bloody tough on laws. And at the moment, the Vlad laws are where they are. If somebody's got a better proposition to put forward, happy to have a look at it. But we're not here to victimise people who are motorcycle enthusiasts. We want you to be able to ride your motorbikes out on the road. But if you're a crook and you want to sell crystal meth or ice to our kids, I'm going to send you to jail, and you're going to stay there for a very long time.
And no one would disagree with that, Steve. But do you think under the bad laws, the net has been thrown too far and wide, that's capturing, you know, innocent people out there who do like to ride their bikes, that type of thing?
I actually do. I've heard, and I used to sit in the cabinet room. We did get so many of the criminal organisations, so there was a really good element to it. Yeah. But there were so many people caught in that net that hadn't done anything wrong. And it's not the coppers' fault, and it's not the bikers' fault. It gets back again to the politicians directing the bureaucrats what they have to do. And I think this
So
gets
find
down
the
to,
balance.
like anything
So we're
in
gonna
life,
find the balance.
come together, understand what the problems are, and put a solution for it and stick to it. Don't keep jumping from place to place. Stick to these rules. But law and order, Pauline, I think that is a big issue in this country. We've got people doing whatever they like. The judges are just letting people go, and we've seen it just recently where that fellow murdered his wife. He was let out on bail, and then we had that fellow who drove over people and mowed them down and killed 6 people. He was also let out on bail. I mean, you know, the lawyers and the judges have got to look at what they're doing. I mean, we've got to stem the flow. It's about keeping Australians and Queenslanders safe. And as far as I'm concerned, I reckon you need to look at your job criteria. And if people are coming before you and they're not very nice people, you got to throw them in jail.
Yeah. There's Shelley Muffy Duffy. Is there any truth in more housing being built for refugees in Toowoomba? Haven't heard anything about it, Shelley. I have no understanding if it's going to happen or not. So that's the first I've heard about it. If you've got information about it, if you care for me to know, send it to my office at the CPO in Brisbane. And
Pauline, on that issue, I know my wife goes out shopping every now and then. She ran across a fellow the other day, and I won't name who he is, but he's really sick. He's had bowel cancer. He's on a bag. He's trying to keep his family alive. He just happens to come from New Zealand, lived here for 25 years. His kids are grown up here. This poor bugger can't get any assistance whatsoever. And you know what he said? He went down to the CES and he tried, to get some assistance. He's got no help whatsoever. And he said, can you do anything for me? And he's so frustrated when he walked out. He said, if I was a bloody refugee that come here on a legal boat, you'd be helping me. I mean, think about a bloke like that who's worked here for 25 years, wants to look after his family. And I've had to tell him, you may have to tap into superannuation. We've got to look, we've got a close allegiance with New Zealand, and we went to war with them.
Yes.
We are all together as one, and I think, we've got to start to look after the people who've looked after us.
well, the federal government's just increased another 5,000. It was 13,750. Now it's 18,750 of refugees were taken into the country, and it's. And I've got to tell you another story too. I spoke to a kidney surgeon just a week ago, and he said a refugee came into his surgery with 5 advocates, one from immigration, one from community, one for human rights and all this, 5 with him, and for a kidney operation paid for at the expense of the taxpayer with the 5 advocates with him. So I understand what you're talking about, and I'm sick and tired of hearing about this all the time, and that's why I keep saying clean up our own backyard first. I don't know about the housing in Toowoomba, but I know that people and what they're telling me, it's not good, and I think that's why the people of Australia are fed up. Let's look after our own, clean up our own backyard first, then when we get that in order, I've got no problems with refugees.
I absolutely concur. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's 3 out of 3 again. We've got another question here. We've got Cara Powell. What will One Nation do about state government hiking up expenses? Do you want me to have this one?
Well, if you're going to be the state premier, you can start, and
Sounds good
I'll
to me.
fill in the spaces.
We're all about putting people before politics. Unlike the other 2 parties, they're just going to tax you. They've taxed you to death. Whatever you do in this world, they're just going to continue to stick a straw into your wallet and take money out of your pocket. What we're going to do is make sure we create prosperity in the state. We're going to try to keep costs down as much as we humanly can. We're going to be sensible, practical, and we're going to deliver the best outcomes we can. Just like I spoke about a moment ago about the Bradfield water scheme, a hybrid of that, that's going to create a whole lot of jobs. It's going to create incomes for so many people. And the apprenticeship scheme that Senator Hanson's spoken about for a long time, and its One Nation policy. You're a senator, you want to talk about that? Because it has been your baby. First year, 50% the government will pay for. Second year?
Well, actually, I've been wanting an apprenticeship scheme in Australia so that the government pays 75% of the first year's wage, 50% of the second, 25% of the third year's wage. Actually, I've spoken to the Christian Porter from the services, social services department. He's the minister for it, and the omnibus bill is going forward, and it's in there. And I've asked him, can he at least put in that omnibus bill, even its places for 500 apprentices, to put it in there and just even try the scheme and see if I'm right that it will work and create jobs in Australia. Look, you're talking about prices, the costs rising in Queensland. What we want to do is reduce the number of politicians in Queensland. At the moment, after these next 4 seats, we're going to have 93 lower house seats in Queensland. We don't need that many politicians, and especially in the southeast corner. What I would like to do is form an upper house. So we can reduce the number of lower house candidates to around about 45 politicians. The lower house form an upper house with about 25. Then we're going to reduce the parliament by 1/3. That's a cost saving to the taxpayer in Queensland of, around about 30 parliamentarians. What we can do, give them an extra staffer and give them the resources that they need. But we won't have that cost involved at all. What I'd like to do, I'd like to put a fine-tooth comb through all the bureaucrats, what wages they're on. I think they're over the top. And if you've heard me go on this week about the head of the CEO, and what he's on is $5.6 million. And I've had a rant about this, and I'm furious about it because they, again, in the omnibus bill, they want me to cut back for pensioners and for those on welfare and everything else like that. And I said, you're not doing anything about him. So I've got investigations going into that. I have spoken to the Minister, Ifield, Communications Minister. They have now written to the board. They are asking for answers to this. But on top of him, listen to this one. You've got 9 on the board, 9 on Australia Post board. They all get $90,000 each. Then on top of that, you've got another 5 directors. They get paid between $1.3, $1.8 million, and the board, they set their own remuneration. Now this guy, the head of Australia Post, Farouk, whatever his name is anyway, Farouk, he came in the job in 2010, so for the last 6 years, he's received $23 million.
What?
23 million. That's what he's got in bonuses. Now, his pay packet, his pay packet, I can't, bonuses and superannuation was 1.2 million in superannuation, plus bonuses that he's got 5.6 million.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't worry, I'm following him up. I'm not going to let go of this.
Pauline, in the Queensland government, the bureaucracy in there, your director generals, and there's some good people, but the money that gets paid down from a director general down to 8 down in their department, it starts, the main DG, he's on 700 plus, and then you go down to the rest of them, they're on 415 up to 5 something or other, and then you go down 8 people, and they're all on roughly $200,000 upward. I mean, goodness me, how do we justify that?
Let's put it in perspective here. You have the bureaucrats on this amount of money. Okay, what do we get? I'm on $200,000 a year.
155.
So there you go.
And I may be getting a pay cut.
and we are actually, the hours that we work, and it's on the go all the time, and the bureaucrats on that, it's unjustified, and I don't believe it's right. And that's where I will be looking at this and pull it back where we can, bring savings to the people out there in their electricity costs, create more competition, and we deregulated so many industries. We're selling off our assets, private ownership.
We've got another question that's slotted in over here.
I know.
Sorry about dragging you back to
this.
these.
I get onto this, and I get so angry about the cost.
Do you want to try this on? We've got Natalie Oliver. Where do you stand on gun ownership?
Do you want to answer that one?
I'm a shooter.
Well,
I'm still wanting to get my licence. Haven't got time to go out and do it. I went to the police station and I said, "Tell me the forms where I actually can fill out so I can get my gun." They said, "Look, you're better off to go online. You'll get it through quicker." I haven't had time.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to get you out to the local pistol club. I shoot long arms and pistols. I do it as a sport, and I'm a target shooter. There are roughly 200,000 licence owners for guns in Queensland, and the reality is, this is a sport. It's no different to driving a race car or playing cricket. People talk about guns that they're bad. They're only bad in the hands of bad people, and I think laws are very straightforward. We need to bring together, and you may be aware of this if you are a shooter, there's all different cards for each type of weapon you use, like a category H for handguns, an AB for long arms, and if you want to have collectibles, there's another card. Why can't we treat it like a driver's license and have them all on one card, and all of those licenses are on the one card? Think of the money that would save just for a start. Instead of having a dozen cards, you just have one. I mean, if you have a driver's license, you can drive a normal vehicle, an articulated vehicle, a backhoe, a motorbike. That's all on one card, and that's just a simple thing. I mean, we've got to be sensible. These are not criminals. These are decent, good Australian and Queensland people who do this as a sport, or if they're out on the land, they do it because they have to. Occasionally you come across animals that have been made lame or something's happened to them, And you need to do what you've got to do to put this
Feral
animal out of its
animals as
ministry.
well,
And
Yeah.
all of the feral cats, we've got 2 million feral cats that weigh up to 15 to 20 kilos each, killing 5 species of native animal every day of the week in Queensland. This is the sort of thing we got to get on top of. They're destroying our wildlife. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there. We got so many problems, but I tell you what, the answer's sitting around the table here. We're going to fix a whole lot of problems. But keep looking on that Facebook site because we're going to keep delivering great messages to you.
But Steve, you said you're a sporting shooter, and you shoot a handgun and a rifle, but I don't see any necessity for people to have a machine gun here, for instance.
They're not allowed to. It was illegal in the early 1900s. Automatic firearms were illegal in Australia. I think it was about 1919 or so, around about that time. So, we've had semis, but fully automatic, and that's where people get confused with it. Yeah. They're illegal.
And I tell you what, all that talk about this 7-shot lever action Adler shotgun,
yeah.
I mean, you can get a 30-30, click, 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 many as you like, mate.
Line shot.
Those things shoot a long way. A shotgun only goes 50 metres. Yeah. So, if people are very concerned about this, there is no need to be concerned. This is a safe sport. Many people do this, and it'll probably be somebody that does have a gun licence, to be brutally honest. What have we got here?
Clean up the criminals first, and then I know.
Danny Tranny, can the taxes on cigarettes go to the hospitals instead of general revenue? There we go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know what people think about that with the cigarettes. You know what I mean? Cigarettes. I'll tell you about the taxes here. Taxes initially, when they came out, was about $60 to $90 a kilo. Taxes on a kilo now is over $560 odd in taxes. That on taxes on cigarette tobacco. So they've risen that much over the period of time. The government will reap about $1 a cigarette in tax.
I mean, if cigarette smoking is so bad, and I also used to be on the health committee and we did a whole lot with cigarettes.
Rising. That's great.
It is pretty scary. I think in Queensland it's $1 billion plus per year goes into the health industry as far as our hospitals are concerned to treat people from smoking. And if the government's real about this, why would they not ban it? I mean, but they're not going to ban it because they're making a ton of money off it. That's what the trick is.
That's the truth of it.
They are. So if they're worried about health issues, there are other ways that we can actually tackle it. Putting it into the health system, it's food for thought that we may be able to look at.
I can't control that one. That's a federal tax.
Yeah, it is a federal tax, but anyway, I'll give it some thought. I'm not going to make policy on the run. I need to think about this.
We got another one here.
Michael McDonald is One Nation for a Royal Commission into the banks. Most definitely, Michael. We've actually been granted to have a Senate inquiry. One Nation has been granted to have a Senate inquiry into the banks. We're under our terms of reference, and we were going to run it up until the end of this year. So we're going to proceed with that. Have to get the terms of reference across. We're working with the Liberal Party with regards to this. We've been able to achieve something that the other political parties haven't. Why I'm going for the Senate inquiry at the moment, Malcolm Turnbull has said no, he will not agree to a Royal Commission. A Royal Commission can take years and it takes millions. It can cost $80 to $100 million to actually have a Royal Commission. So what I'm saying is I'd like to have a Senate inquiry. If we can produce the evidence into it, then we need to go into agents, we need to go into other areas to bring the banks and make them accountable to the inquiry. If we can produce the evidence that they are cheating people or doing wrong by people, throwing them off their properties. There's one case in Queensland, I spoke to the people just last week about this, they were thrown off their properties. If we can prove there is enough evidence there, then that justifies having a Royal Commission and taking it further. But a Senate inquiry, yes, we are heading down that track.
Well, I'm still going to ask you, you're out there. If you want to ask any questions, get onto Steve Dickson MP Facebook and you can chuck through any question you like. We're happy to answer whatever you would like to put forward.
Hey, you know what Katrina Mosley's out there saying? Where can I get one of those stickers? This here.
Well, where we are at the moment, I'm not normally advertising places, but we're at Gloria Jean's coffee shop in Buderim. If you want one, pop in and grab one. We've got a few here right now. Alternatively, you're going to see me walking around Steve or any One Nation candidate. They'll organise some for you. It's a great advertisement tool, and One Nation, they're the people going to make Queensland great again.
So that's good. I'm not sure if we got it on our onenation.com.au website page. If not, ring up our office and we might be able to. So the office in Brisbane is 32621088. So give us a call.
We've got another question here, and that is...
What is One Nation doing about family law?
Nalia Drug. What is One Nation doing about family law?
Nella, I've got a meeting next Tuesday in Canberra. I've organised a meeting with a couple of the Chief Justices, one from New South Wales and one from Tasmania. I haven't forgotten about it. It's an issue I have been pushing. I want to sit down and have talks with them and how can we clean up the law courts and the problems that we have there. So it's... I'm pushing forward with this. I've spoken to George Brandis, who's the Attorney General, with regards to it. He knows I'm very passionate about this. We have to find the answers. You know, I nearly every day when I'm out in public, I actually have people pull me up about the whole issue. It's not only about the family law courts, it's about child support, it's about the DV... thanks.
It's pretty hot.
It's about DVOs or AVOs. People are just being... You know, I think it's destroying families. They're not getting the answers that they need, and they feel they want someone to listen to them. So, and I'll tell you what I'm going to be talking to you about. You know, you're getting One Nation. The DVO laws in Queensland, they go from state to state how they are. I think they're over the top. They are absolutely ridiculous. Do you know that? And I'll speak from experience here. And if I get passionate about this anger, it's because I have a right to. My son's going through this. Do you know that he cannot see his son, and he Skypes his son, and he cannot, and if his ex-wife holds the phone up and she takes it off the son, he cannot say, can you please put the phone back on my son so I can see him? Really? That is the DVO. He cannot ask her a question, he cannot talk to her. He's now been told he can't go through Relationships Australia. The courts are not giving him the time to see his son. He's seen his son 5 hours in 9 months. 5 hours.
Pauline,
and it's got to change. DVOs, because you make a phone call, that's the DVO.
It is a big issue.
We're going to change this in Queensland.
Well, I think we do, but people have got to remember too, this is about the kids. You know, seriously, it's about making sure that the kids have got a happy, healthy way of growing up, going to school, and I tell you, it touches on a topic really dear to my heart, that Safe Schools program that I really don't like a whole lot, where it's trying to teach little kids at school all about their sexual orientation and, you know, if you want to dress up and all this sort of stuff. I mean,
politics.
It's this lefty, loopy, social engineering stuff that's been going on. I tell you what, I think that's why the country's in the state it's in today. There's too much of this stuff way off to the far left. We just want to give people a fair go. We want kids to grow up and have a normal life and go to school and interact and get out on the paddock, learn the reading, writing and arithmetic, and get on and get a job. You know, this is what life is all about. Happy, healthy families, and that's what we stand for. We want people to live normal lives.
More effort into literacy and numeracy and science, and less into the gender politics and so on.
That loopy lefty stuff we're talking about.
Then we will end up with kids who are actually intelligent and know something. You know, so you go into a supermarket or a place now, and unless there's a computer there to work out what your change is, you know, half the kids don't know because they can't do the maths.
I know, I had them in my shop 20 years ago when the electricity went down. They couldn't work the till because they didn't know how to count out the change.
Yeah.
So it was like...
You got to feel for them. I mean, we all used to learn it in our head. We had no choice. I had the same experience. I went to a fruit and veg shop. Power went out, and I wanted to get some potatoes. And I said, well, what about the scales over here? You can just put them on there, and it'll tell you, you know, like half a kilo, that's half of the cost. I mean, they just don't know. And it's not their fault. It's the way they're being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Looks like we got some more questions.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Jaron Person,
that's it.
what is your stance on the alcohol tax?
Right, get rid of it. Drop it. I think it was ridiculous, over the top, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it's forced them. What's happening now? The kids won't go out there and buy an alcohol because of the high tax. So they're actually having the spirits before they go out, so they can hire that cheaper, or they're getting drugs because the drugs are cheaper to take than having alcohol. So I think the government are wrong here.
I think you're on the money in this preloading that you're talking about. They are doing that. They get on the grog before they go out, and the worst scenario is if this alcohol tax is actually leading kids towards drugs, it's really got to be looked at, because crystal meth, it's destroying the person who takes it, but it's also destroying the family of the person who takes it, and that just can't continue to go on.
All right, last question. Well, we just sort of touched on this, didn't we? Will you stop safe schools if your party wins government? Oh, that's lovely. Lady just turned up to get one of our...
You're very welcome.
Motions. Great.
Well, I think, what's the answer to that question? I know what it is.
Throw it out.
It's gone. What do you think?
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
I tell you what, I've got one thing I want to leave you with before I go. A bit of an idea that was thrown at me by a really, really intelligent fellow the other day. And I've done a little bit of it since I've been in government. We have the biggest men's shed in Australia right here in Buderim. And when I was a minister in the previous government, I actually engineered so that we could get that men's shed a lease of 30 by 30 by 30 for $1 a year so that they could put their men's shed on government-owned land. So the proposition that I'm throwing out onto the table today, and I've got these two here backing me, we want to make sure that all men's sheds in Queensland, all non-profit organisations, if you need some land and there's some spare state government land floating around that's not being utilised, why not let these non-profit organisations lease that land for $1 a year? It's still in the government hands, and in 100 years' time they might want to turn that land into something else, but in the interim, why not look after all those non-profit organisations? This is one of the policies that we're looking at right now. I want to get your feedback, so if you can look at Facebook, Steve Dickson MP, look at our Facebook site and give us some comments on that. We'd like to know what you think about it.
I'd like to give you some feedback on that
What
right
do you
now
think?
because I think that we need to make sure who the non-profit organisations are and if they're legitimate non-profit organisations, you know, because there are going to be a lot of groups out there who will, we'll go and get free land for $1 a year, and they're not eligible for it as genuine non-profit organisations.
I'll tell you what,
I think for the men's shed, absolutely cracking idea, but you know, I think we need to make sure who the non-profit organisations are before we go handing out a lot of land.
Steve, that's a very fair call, but this is what One Nation is all about. We're going to give people a go. We're going to let them have their say, and we will draw the line in the sand. I mean, it will be for men's sheds, it probably will be for returned servicemen, and all of those people out there that look after our local community. If the government can't support the local non-profit organisations like Men's Shed, Returned Servicemen, Rotary and the like, what are they here for?
No.
Seriously, what are governments here for if they can't help those people?
I agree. Those people are genuine non-profit organisations.
Here we go,
Right.
you're the boss.
I like that. I'm the boss. No, we'll, what I'm going to say, thanks for tuning in, and I hope,
Thanks.
Norla,
We got one here.
Rosalind.
just shared your page and live feed. Say thank you. Oh, wonderful, Nola. Thanks for sharing the page and everything. That's fantastic.
We got
because
another
you're
one here,
helping us.
Julia Taylor. Will you stop safe schools? No, we got that before.
We
If your
did
party
that.
wins in government. Julia, if you didn't hear us
Right.
before, the answer is yes, it's history. It is out the door, and we will never implement that with any of our children in Queensland. They don't need that stuff.
Okay. Oh,
Mick's
Mick, you're coming
Come
on to
on
say
over.
hi. Mick's from.
Mate, come in here and step. Hey, slot in the back. Nick, jump
How
down.
are you?
Sit down there on that seat. Get in here.
Thank you very much.
Mate, we're still live. Come and sit down here.
Okay, thanks.
Mate, we need you to
So-
talk to us, mate. So tell us all about Buderim.
Stephen Ford.
How are you, Steve?
Mate, get in there and tell us all about Buderim. And this is Senator Hanson.
I know that.
No, Mick, is this your page? Your
Pardon?
business?
Yeah,
your
it is,
business?
it is, yeah.
Yeah, lovely. I tell you what, I had a great hot chocolate.
Oh, great.
It
That's
was
good.
hot.
I
I
thought-
like it hot.
I could see you were talking a lot, so I thought you better get
I
some
did.
cold water.
Thank you. No, it's great. Very nice. But thanks for your support.
Oh,
It's
no,
really
pleasure.
good.
Yeah. Anytime
What do you
I had wanted to go up and approach Stephen to say, anytime I can get you down here, please. You know.
Yeah.
Hey,
no,
Nick,
it's lovely
it's a
we
done
came.
deal.
thanks, sir.
I come here all the time. This is my home, and
Yeah.
it's now almost Senator Hanson's home too, because she's here a whole lot.
I know.
And Steve lives around here too.
I have seen you occasionally around. I
Yeah.
hope she comes over here.
There you go.
No, it's lovely. Look, thanks for the support. It's
Yeah,
been
thank you.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's great to see you, yeah.
Be back. So if you want a hot chocolate, I can recommend a hot chocolate. Gloria Jeans from Amber.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, guys. Look,
Thanks, Steve.
thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please go to like Steve's page. I think.
you know, you've got over 180,000 followers, and in the last 3 days, you've actually increased more than all of the followers I've got. I think I've got just over 4,000. And I don't know how you do it. I think it's your good looks.
Don't start embarrassing me or saying that. No, I've got someone who's really good behind the scenes helping me. So it's team effort. That's why I'm there. And I, you know what I think, Steve, is that if you're upfront, honest with people, you don't give BS out there, you don't beat around the bush and just tell people the way it is, people will tune in, they will listen to you. You start carrying on acting like all those other pollies out there, they can see that any other time, day of the week, they want something different. They want true people that's representative of them. So anyway, guys, thank you.
Pauline.
Thanks for joining my
You're a
team.
champion. No, I'm happy to be here. The chains are off.
Thanks,
This is
Steve.
fun.
All right.
What are we going to do?
the
Oh,
foot.
the footy. Mate, the footy's on this afternoon down at Queensland Oval. Just brand new stadium, all being rebuilt. If you want to go down there, it is the Melbourne Storms versus the New Zealand Warriors.
New Zealand Warriors.
And it's going to be a
Okay.
cracker of a game, but I'm going to tell you now, I'm back in the Storms.
Absolutely.
What do you
Alright.
think's going to win?
I'm not
Storms?
saying. Cheers.
See you guys.
Very good.